Now, human resource leaders across Australia expect their companies to increase their profits as a result of a shift towards continued working from home. But will they also increase their benefits budget and consider pay rises for staff? Well, I suppose the RBA is hoping they certainly will. A new study seems to think that's the case too, and to run us through it is Ross McDonald from Perkbox. Ross, thanks for coming into Startup Radio Studios. Great to have you here. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Well, at least we're in the office, so
yes.
That's cool. Now, you've been drilling down into this. What are a couple of the things you've discovered as you started to look at how 2022 is going to pan out in terms of our work practices?
Yeah, we surveyed over 400 HR business leaders about what they thought was going to be important in 2022. And some of it was confirming almost common sense, if you like. Flexible working, remote working, those things are going to be very important. And they came out in the top answers. But what was actually more interesting is the level underneath that, where we found that recognition was a key question for HR leaders. How were they going to be able to provide recognition of effort and celebrating success for people who were no longer in the office and you could no longer see what they were actually doing? And then the third layer beyond that was this great desire to provide benefits, but actually not a lot of clarity on what benefits would mean. There's clarity that it no longer means bean bags and Friday afternoon beers, or not just that for people in the office. But actually, how do you go beyond that and provide something that's meaningful and relevant for everybody in the workforce, whether they're in the office with you today, at home tomorrow, or indeed in another country or another location altogether?
I'm going to ask, I suppose, a tricky question, but in some ways, when you listed the top 10 HR perks leaders expect from non-remote workers, more flexible working hours, the 60%, is that even a perk anymore, or should it be kind of standard operating? Do we need to sort of shift a little bit of our thinking on that front?
I think that's an area where this has moved really, really quickly over the last several months. Our survey, the data is now about 2 months old, and I know from employing myself that is actually becoming an expectation of people walking into a new job, is that they have that flexibility to be able to manage not only their workload when the work has to be done, but then the other aspects of their life as well. And I think that the fact that 6 out of 10 of the people who responded saw that as the number one benefit actually tells me that most people do, and it's going to become the normal for 2022.
Recognition, well, that's an ongoing issue we always expect, 40% of people, but the one that sort of seemed to me came out of it with a bullet was subsidised commuting costs. Not only that, but that beat childcare. Childcare's on 25%. I think we probably need to ask a few more women on that front to get a slightly different answer. But 26% wanted commuting costs to be subsidised.
Yeah, that's really interesting as well, and maybe it reflects the fact that childcare is really important for a certain period of your life stage, but if you're expected to go to an office, that happens across your career, and so maybe that's why it came up higher. But I think it's certainly a lot of benefit for HR leaders to really think about their own workforce and what's going to resonate for their own workforce at that particular time. And childcare might not be relevant to anybody working in this workspace, but perhaps it would be for an entirely different operation.
Now, there are the top 5 benefits from the additional revenue a remote workforce delivers. Now, 59% say increased profit. We can sort of pick that one up. But provide increase a wellbeing budget of 44%. That sort of seems to be a really interesting shift in the workplaces being much more conscious about looking after their staff and teams.
Yeah, I think actually that's probably something that's been accelerated through this pandemic period when we've been locked down, and it's one thing to do the work and sort of email it in, if you like. But I know that managers, the thoughtful managers, have really been concerned about their teams and how to make sure that the teams are actually going okay, that the people are not feeling disconnected and cut off. And I think that well-being drive from managers is talking to that and saying, how can we make sure that our employees are not only doing the job, but actually thriving and feeling connected back to the organisation.
So before I let you go, Perkbox, it must have been sort of an interesting 18 months for you as you sort of dealt with the ups and downs, and as you kind of mentioned here, the employees are really conscious of being connected with their staff and their teams. What's been happening with your business? Yeah,
I think the recent 18, 20 month experience, depending on where you are in the world and how much time you've spent out of the office, has really confirmed that Perkbox proposition, that employee experience is really important, and that companies, organisations need tools to help them deliver a meaningful employee experience. So what we've done at Perkbox is really accelerate through that wellness offering in the last probably 6 months or so, really brought that to mean not only gym discounts, but also mental health and mental wellness, those types of aspects as well. And what we've been able to do then is use online technologies to provide that experience to workers wherever they happen to be. Again, not only at home or in the office, but in fact out on the go with a mobile app, or indeed in other countries as well. So I'm really excited about the prospect that Perkbox gives to those companies that are growing and want to be global.
Ross McDonald, Country Manager for Perkbox Australia. Great to have you in the studio and some fascinating insights there. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.